All right, let's now shift our attention to the South Indian state of Kerala, where the shutdown over Sabarimala in the state of Kerala has in fact been called in, and groups that are opposed to the entry of women have called for a statewide strike. And on your screens are in fact the visuals from Thiruvananthapuram, and this is what the day looks like there today. Now, the strike comes just a day after two women in their menstruating age, both of them were said to be in their early 40s, entered into the sanctum sanctorum of the temple and offered prayers to Lord Ayyappa. The Sabarimala Karma Samiti has called for a strike from dawn till dusk, and the group said that the shutdown is to protest what they consider as the government's betrayal of Ayyappa devotees. Remember, after the news of the two women having entered into the sanctum sanctorum came about, the temple administration also carried out what they described as purification rituals, as the place had in some ways they felt been defiled by the presence of the two women. And also what you are looking at on your screens are visuals from Pathanamthitta, and this is what the scene is like after the Bandh was called. Now, the temple entry by women devotees has prompted protests in many parts of the city. Yesterday, activists backing the temple tradition blocked state highways and also forced shops and markets to shut down. Now, this is the 7th such strike in just the last 3 months over the Sabarimala issue. The protesting outfits say that they will not back down until Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan steps down. However, Kerala's traders' organizations have refused to support the strike. It was only last month that over 35 traders' associations in Kerala had joined hands to announce 2019 as the anti-Hartal year, meaning that they will not cooperate with any group which calls for a strike, as it has happened today. Now, the Sabarimala Temple has in fact been off limits for women of menstruating age, and India's Supreme Court in the month of September, in a landmark and a historic order, had overturned the ban. But despite this, and despite the best efforts by the state administration, there were several women who tried to seek entry into Sabarimala, but they were not allowed to set foot in the hilltop shrine. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by our correspondent Siddharth, who's been tracking the developments very closely for us. Good morning to Siddharth. Now, this entry by two women has been hailed in many ways as historic. There are people who are saying that, look, this is in fact the way forward. Finally, you know, the Supreme Court judgment which was given in the month of September, which allowed and permitted women to in fact gain entry into the Sabarimala shrine, that came to fruition. But how has this been taken in the temple town of Sabarimala?
Well, of course, in the temple town of Sabarimala, this is being seen as a betrayal of faith, because for all of the devotees there and protesters there, they were blocking multiple attempts made by women since the 20th of September. But now, just as the new year has come in, it is on January 2nd that this has happened, and it was something unexpected, because the same group of women, the same Bindu and Kanakadurga, had attempted to enter the temple on the 24th of December. But back then their attempts were blocked, and the same group of women have now made history by entering the temple. So, of course, there in Sabarimala, people are not happy with what has happened and the way in which the police and the state administration has supported this attempt, because this was a time when they least expected, and they also say that they least expected people to enter at the wee hours of the morning. It was at about 3:30 and 3:45 that these women got darshan at the Sabarimala temple.
All right, and also there are protests. There has been a bandh that's been called in Kerala today. How successful has this bandh been?
Well, yes, in fact, the bandh is something that is very common. Bandh or a hartal or complete state of shutdown is pretty common in Kerala, with different parties, be it the ruling party or the opposition party, calling for it for different reasons. It could be for the Sabarimala issue or whatever. So, in fact, even regarding the Sabarimala issue, there have been about 5 to 6 calls of shutdown all through the days, right after the verdict came out on September 28th. Until today, there have been over 5 to 6 instances where the state has observed a complete state of shutdown. And in this case, yesterday, when the organizations called for a bandh, a lot of the traders and the shopkeepers came out and said that they will not shut shop, because for them it would affect their business and livelihood. So, well, of course, yes, buses won't be plying, but then the shops are saying that they will be open provided they get police protection, because it's a matter of livelihood for the shopkeepers who cannot shut shop whenever the groups demand them to do so.
Absolutely. Now, in all of this, Siddharth, the fact of the matter is just about 3 days ago, there were about lakhs of women who formed a chain where they said that, look, we want to uphold values of equality, and they supported this Supreme Court verdict, which actually permitted women to enter into the Sabarimala shrine. With that being the case, how widespread and how persistent will these protesters be? Now that two women have already sought entry and have gained entry and have performed prayers in the Sanctum Sanctorum, there will be more women, and the government has to implement the Supreme Court order.
Yes, in this one case, the government has successfully implemented the order, but it also needs to be remembered that this was a well thought of and well crafted strategy. This was in the making for over 10 to 15 days, because when these women were denied entry on the 24th of December, since then these women have practically gone into hiding, and it is said that the police had also conducted multiple recce's to understand which route the women should take to reach the temple without being blocked by the protesters. So this was all so much in the planning, and they had ensured that they do not come across protesters, they do not encounter protesters across the way. So something like this needs meticulous planning, because Sabarimala Temple town is a place where lakhs and lakhs of people throng. So it is not so easy for a couple of women or a couple of policemen to whisk these people towards the temple and towards the Sanctum Sanctorum. So this happened successfully primarily because this happened in the wee hours of the morning. But take any of the peak hours, anything after 7 a.m. in the morning, naturally the crowds are going to swell into several lakhs. So that is one of the challenges. And yes, of course, we can expect more women to express interest to move to the temple now, but also the protesters are going to step up their vigil now that this has happened. They are not going to take this easy.
Absolutely indeed. And Siddhant, just before I let you go, very quickly, how much of this issue is now going to be hijacked for political purposes? There are protesters who want to uphold their traditions, and also there are some right-wing parties who'd like to piggyback on this issue and try gain a foothold in the state of Kerala. How much of a traction are they likely to find with this issue of Sabarimala?
Well, yes, it's being projected by the opposition parties, including the BJP and the Congress, as a conspiracy by the left parties to actually demolish the faith of a religion and demolish what people believed in a certain deity and in the customs of the temple. But the ruling party says that they're only going by the law and abiding by what the Supreme Court said, because as the Chief Minister of Kerala, Pinarayi Vijayan, mentioned yesterday, he said that whenever women tried to enter prior to this, there were multiple attempts to thwart the women's entry. But today there was no there were no protesters to thwart women's entry, and women have been able to enter. So the Chief Minister has maintained the stance that when there are protests, the police will always take a safe stance and ensure that the pilgrims or the ladies are safe. But if there are no protesters, then what stops them from going and getting darshan at the Sabarimala temple?
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddharth MP, for getting us all the latest updates. We'll of course come to you as this story unfolds in Kerala.